Some mistakes are small, others spread. On a quiet train ride, one woman learns the hard way that some things just can't be wiped away. The train was the sort that shuttled through endless grey and utilitarian tunnels. The seats were a shiny, slippery steel, cold, impersonal, and uncomfortable. The air smelt faintly of stale air, punctuated by the occasional sound of a backpack zipping, a phone clicking, or the sharp exhale of someone attempting to breathe calmly on a crowded morning. I was seated near the window. It was one of those days when you let your thoughts wander, staring at nothing in particular, letting the motion of the train smooth out your brain. And that's when I noticed her. She was seated directly across from me, hunched slightly in her seat, as though trying to make herself smaller, trying not to occupy too much space, despite having the row to herself. She looked to be in her 40s, perhaps older, somewhere between weathered and experienced. Her hair caught in a ponytail that swayed with every subtle shift of the train's motion. Her face was plain, unassuming, tired eyes, a few deep lines around her cheeks, and lips slightly pursed as though in quiet conversation with herself. What caught my attention, though, was her hand. It was steady at first, fingers poised with the kind of absent-minded intent. I realized she wasn't fiddling with her phone or adjusting her glasses or reaching for a snack. She was putting her hand towards her ear with a deliberate kind of mechanical pull, fingers gripping something metallic. And then it became clear. A key. She was using her key, not the tip but the jagged edge, to explore the recesses of her ear. A subtle kind of desperate digging, both mechanical and focused. It looked deliberate and casual all at once, as if it was some unspoken part of her morning routine. Something that no one talked about, but everyone understood in their own quiet way. The kind of cleaning that, at its best, brought relief and, at its worst, made an entire train car feel like it was about to witness a full-blown medical emergency. I watched as her hand pressed deeper and deeper into her head. The key, now engaged in some unknown internal excavation, looked almost surgical as she shifted it. There was a kind of rhythm to it, a steady, punctuated digging that reminded me of someone trying to unearth old coins from beneath cobblestones. Time slowed as I began to anticipate what might come next. She came to a sudden stop. Her hand froze. And then there it was, a sudden glint, an unwelcome, shiny brown against the white plastic key, wedged stubbornly at its end. She held her hand in front of her for a moment, examining the result. Her brow furrowed, and she frowned deeply. It was a small, globular mess of wax, viscous and gleaming, undeniably there. The sort of thing you can feel in the back of your mind, deep and stubborn. A physical violation that has far too much ownership of your attention. She must have found it, because she tried to shake the key, first gently, then more vigorously. Nothing. It stayed there, clinging to the key like an uninvited guest, resolute in its refusal to part ways. She looked around nervously, her face briefly illuminated by a momentary flicker of dread. She was trapped, visibly unsure of what to do. She tried a kind of casual shake again, as if the key might lose its stubbornness through sheer force of her will. but the wax remained lodged there, like it had fused into the key with a kind of ancient geological resolve. She tried another approach. Perhaps it could be dislodged with a flick. Her hand arced downward in a kind of dramatic movement, attempting to shake it loose with sheer physical effort. Her fingers flicked with precision. She looked confident, perhaps too confident, and that's when she realized her approach only made things worse. It had become a slick, wet smudge of movement, shifting like viscous molasses. She glanced down at her hand in horror. The key had picked up a kind of sheen that was now shifting and reflecting the dim blue light from the train windows. She sighed deeply. She tried the next step. She would flick the wax onto the seat, or maybe the floor. Something about that key felt intimate, like an extension of herself, and she didn't want to admit defeat. Her hand moved again, trying to shake, but her fingers kept pulling it closer to her body. She looked as though she might just lean forward in defeat and scrub it off her coat when she did the worst thing imaginable. Her eyes darted toward her backpack, worn and polyester, a dark green with black straps. The straps were just loose enough that they rested against her arms as she shifted. Desperation came. She hesitated for only a second. She could feel the eyes of at least 2 other passengers on her by now. But then her hand moved. She wiped the key hastily against one of the straps on the backpack she was wearing, pulling it across in a single, firm motion. She thought perhaps this would clean things up. She might make the stain go away. But no. It left a stain, a terrible, opaque smear of glossy beige, exactly the kind of stain you'd expect from wax, but worse. It gleamed under the unnatural train lighting, like a drop of oil on a pristine piece of linen. The backpack strap was now a slick, discoloured thing with a dull, wet glint that drew the eye. It stood out. Everyone on the train could see it. Her hand, trembling slightly, tried to rub the stain. She rubbed it in a circular motion, pressing harder with her hand until she realized that all she was doing was making it worse, spreading it further, smearing the stain like a spreading fungal infection on her bag. The shape it formed began to take on a personality of its own. A malformed landmass, one that looked eerily like a post-colonial map of arbitrary borders dictated by mountains and rivers, neglecting demographics, cultures, and all sense of cohesion. A colonial wound of geography that stubbornly lingered on a backpack strap. Now the wax was no longer just there, it was set. She could no longer pretend this wasn't a problem. She had triggered its existence with deliberate intent, and now it was fully formed, a continent-shaped stain, embedded forever on her bag. She tried to wipe it out, but it wouldn't go. The more she rubbed, the larger it grew. It had moved from a simple blot to a full-fledged stain, spreading like geopolitical entropy. She stared at it, dumbfounded, as though it might somehow resolve itself. Perhaps if she simply looked hard enough, the universe would undo this act. Perhaps the stain would retreat like a tide. It didn't. She adjusted her backpack and pretended to focus on her phone, but the stain stared back at me. It remained there, smug, glistening, a reminder of failure and key wax hubris, a failed state experiment in cleaning. And she didn't look at it either. The train rattled on. Before you go, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. And if you're looking for more videos like this, I've got you covered. Just click on the videos here to keep watching. See you in the next one.